Welcome to another episode of Coffee with Coach Caffey. Today we're going to talk about Arkansas football. And I had a great 4 years coaching football in Arkansas, and that it was an opportunity that came about because of my brother Charles. He played college football in Arkansas and actually settled up there at Paragould, Arkansas. And when that job became available, we had a desire, he and I, to live closer together, and so I applied for that job and got it, and it was a great place. It was a great job, good place to work. Greene County Tech High School was the name of the school. We started. We didn't start the program there, but it was just about like starting a program. They had been playing football for 10 years and had not had very many winning seasons. And so somewhere in that 10 years that they'd been playing, they had a 5-5 year. And that was the best football season ever. And it was a school that was dominated by basketball. And that area up there had a bunch of small schools that did not play football, and so when they consolidated them, they became a pretty good sized school. I think we had about 700 or maybe a little bit more in high school, and so and had a lot of kids that weren't getting to participate in athletics, and so football added football, and it struggled. Even the smaller schools that had a football tradition would beat Greene County Tech. And so when I got there, we were in a smaller division, and we first year I think we went 3-7, and then the next year we didn't win a game, and so we were feeling a little pressure about that. I think they were wondering about this coach they'd hired from Texas, but we did several things to turn that around, and one of them is I worked at Arkansas State's football camp that year. And as a young coach, I had worked for Gary Gaines, who was the Friday Night Lights coach. I had worked for Don Carthel, the West Texas A&M coach. I had worked for Ralph Harris, who was Eric Dickerson's high school coach, and so I'd worked for some good head coaches, but I kind of had this attitude that I wanted to be innovative. I wanted to do something different, and so I didn't take any of their offensive philosophies just as they were. I took a little bit from this one, a little bit from that one, and so we struggled offensively, and so that summer I went over to Arkansas State, and everybody in Arkansas was running wishbone at that time. Arkansas State was, and University of Arkansas was. Ken Hatfield was over there. So I went over to Arkansas State's camp that year, and I sat down with their offensive line coach, Gary Withrow, and he just showed me how to block every defense that we'd see the whole year, and for the inside veer, and we ran. That's basically what we did. We ran the inside veer, ran a few pass plays and a few specialty plays, but we took it exactly like they did it, and we called it the same things. I think Indian was to the right and Lamar was to the left, and if we were going to run speed option, it was King to the right and Arthur to the left, and so we just took it exactly like they did it. And so we'll go up to not Mountain Home, but I can't remember the name of the school up there. It's been 33 years, but a school up in the Ozarks, and played them. They were a tradition-rich school, and very good football team, and Kelly Garner broke loose that night. He was our quarterback, and he had a great night. Kenny Autry had a great night, and Kevin Rawls had a great night running the ball, and we we just had a wonderful game and won by 2 or 3 touchdowns up there, and that kind of got us off on the right foot. So like I said, the best year they'd ever had was 5-5. Well, and the year before we'd gone 0-10, and but we one of the keys I think to turning that thing around was getting the offensive part of the game plan straightened out. The other thing was a guy named Kelly Garner. Kelly Garner was a great leader, and when we went up there, he was in the band. I believe he was a tuba player in the band, and so old Kelly came out and boy, he worked hard, and he just bought into what we were doing, and he became, where he could run a 4.5 and bench press 300 pounds, and he was only about 5'6". He was a little short guy, but boy, I tell you what, he was a competing little dude. And he learned how to read the option, and reading the option was the key thing. We'd run the wishbone, but we didn't read it. And so I'd heard Ken Hatfield say that we were missing out on about 40% of our offense out of the wishbone if we didn't read it. And so we started reading the option. And anyway, Kelly Garner was a big part. He was a great leader. Another kid that was really key on that turnaround was a kid named Brian Massey. He was an undersized lineman, really not fast enough to play in the backfield, but he's probably about the size that we could have played him at halfback. But we needed him in the offensive line. O'Brien later came by when I was coaching at Copper's Cove and came down and stayed a weekend with us, I think. But outstanding young man and outstanding leader. And I still remember one night when I came into the locker room at halftime, the coaches had kind of gone into my office and we were talking about what we were going to do in there. And I remember Brian Massey and Kelly Garner telling the team, kind of giving them the shakedown and saying, hey, we're going to win this ball game. And sure enough, we did. So it was a big turnaround for us. Arkansas football came out the next week and our next year and in the summer, and we were the most improved team in Arkansas that year. We'd gone from 0-10 to 7-3, similar to the turnaround we had in Winters. And other things that added to that turnaround. We started track at Greene County Tech when I went up there. It was kind of surprising to me that Greene County Tech didn't run track. And so, like I said, there weren't that many sports at that time, and we added track and boys and girls, and man, we probably had in the afternoons we'd have 100 kids out there running around our track. Well, we didn't actually have a track. We took some stakes from that we got from the lumber yard and drove them into the ground, and that marked off our track around our football stadium. And but it was crowded, and we had good shot and discus people, and by the time that third year came around and we turned it around, we had some fast kids. Kenny Autry, he could win most 100 and 200 meter races in that part of the state. And then we had old Kevin Rawls was our fullback. He was very fast. And of course, Kelly Garner was fast. And so we improved our speed a lot. Some other kids that I'd like to mention, Sean Hodge. I think Sean Hodge, he might have been one of the hardest hitters that I've ever coached. He was a linebacker, and I think he ran, he was slow. He ran about 5'6" or something like that in a 40. But boy, if he hit you, whew, I still remember one night we were playing Truman, Arkansas, and old Sean hit a kid on the kickoff return and scared me to death. I hit that kid right in front of our bench, and that kid went into convulsions. I thought, man, oh, I thought Sean had killed him or something, but he's all right, thank goodness, but or thank God. But and then another kid that was really a big hitter was Tony Deathridge, and Tony was a tough kid, came from a really difficult upbringing, and Tony bought into what we were doing. He was a really solid football player for us, played fullback and linebacker too. Then big Brian Harper was great lineman we had, and he was a very physical, tough kid. And then, we had a kid named Keith McDaniel that's now superintendent up in that area. And Keith was a good, hard-working kid also. And Chuck Anderson, he's one of my favorites. He never played football, came over from a private school in the area, and he was a lot of fun to be around. All these kids have gone on to do some very special things. Some of them gone into military service, and Kelly Garner went into the Marines. And that was the thing about these guys that made them special to me, is that they worked so hard. I don't think I've ever coached a harder working group of kids than I coached then. And I was younger and full of fire and vigor, and so I killed them. I worked those kids extremely hard. I can still remember we'd do 80 push-ups without stopping, incline push-ups with our feet on the bench. And those kids they could do it. And I think maybe the toughest, most physical bunch of kids I've ever coached. And that's what made them special to coach. And the other thing that made my time there special was the coaching staff I had. Nearly every one of those guys that I hired were first-year coaches. And of course, I moved all the way from Texas. I got there in the summer. I didn't know anybody, and so we ended up hiring a whole coaching staff of really young coaches. We decided we'd rather hire quality people that were young and inexperienced. We'd teach them what to do. And Chester Key was our athletic director. He and I worked together there. And so we hired a guy named Gene Weeks. And Gene is now the superintendent of schools up there at Greene County Tech. And after I left, Gene became the head football coach and was successful. We hired a guy named Kevin Gill, who I can't really remember the details of hiring Kevin, but he was really the top assistant in girls basketball, but he also helped us coach football. And then Don Webb came in later, maybe the second year I was there, and he is an administrator at Newport or Harrisburg or Harrison, I think. And then Bruce Hunt was a baseball assistant and also helped me coach football. And Bruce has won several state championships coaching baseball at Greene County Tech. And one of my favorites was a guy named Todd Lovell. Oh, Todd, he was country as they could be, but he was really a special guy. And Todd went on to be head coach at East Poinsett. And he was a special individual. He was driven. I mean, more driven than anybody I'd ever known, because he was so cheap that guys would kind of make fun of him a little bit on the coaching staff. But he was determined he was going to save some money and buy some land up there around. I'm trying to think, up there in the Ozarks. And but anyway, Todd, after I left, and he didn't get the head coaching job, which I wish somehow I could have. He and Gene were equally good coaches, but he went over to East Poinsett and won some championships over there. So I mean, I had an all-star staff. I had a bunch of outstanding young coaches, and so they really were helpful to me. And I worked them hard. We went to clinics, and we really You know, I got better as a football coach, and certainly they did too. So that was a big plus for me while I was there. And the other big plus was family. My brother and his wife and their 3 kids, they all went to school at Greene County Tech, and then my kids went to school there. And so, you know, we had 6 Caffey cousins there in school at that place, and yeah, that was special, especially those first couple of years, because we didn't win many games, and so it was encouraging me to have my family around, and so I don't have a lot of mementos from back in that time, but I have this one, and this was given to me either after my first or second year, and you know, we'd had a not so great season, and so the team gave this to me. It says, "They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint." Isaiah 40:31. Well, I keep this on the wall next to my bed here in Abilene, Texas, and it meant a lot to me. Let's see, it was given to me in 1986, it says. So that must have been, yeah, that was before, yeah, that was after my second year. And so, and also something that's significant, it says high school football and track. And so that track part was big thing there, because we had gotten, you know, it was amazing, people, how much participation we'd gotten, how many kids we had out for track, you know, considering that we did not have track. So those kids, they bought into what we wanted them to do, and they got better in a hurry. Then the next memento I have is another thing. The kids at Greene County Tech, they were very appreciative of what we did. And this one says, "In appreciation for your work and encouragement, which led to the winningest football season ever at Greene County Tech." And you know, if you walk into the principal's office when I first got there, there was a big picture of a football team right there as you walked into the principal's office, and that kind of impressed me. And I got to looking at it, and that was the picture of the winningest football team in Greene County Tech history, and they were 5-5. So you know, we eclipsed that mark, and had their first winning season, and you know, to this day, that's one of the best football teams they've ever had. But you know, the thing that made that situation hard as a football coach was that you know, basketball had such a stronghold on it. Anybody that was a good athlete, that's what they were playing. So we had to find a way to win, maybe without having the best athletes out on the field. And so we had good numbers. The school was a big school and had great kids. But as far as the kids that could jump and throw and catch, you know, things like that, they were playing basketball. So we ran the ball. Kelly Garner was our quarterback. We threw it about one time a game, and we chewed people up. You know, I think if you look at this picture, I hope you can see that. A lot of super kids. I mean, what a clean-cut looking group of young guys we had on that team. And you know, and you know, most of them look like linebackers or defensive linemen. Not many wideout looking type kids out there, and so they were content, very unselfish, very hardworking, and that's what you know, we were a team, and that's what made that team special. You know, and just the kids in the community. out there in the Greene County Tech attendance zone, they were very talented. I mean, we'd have a talent show, and I would just be blown away how they could sing and play and guitars and you know, they really, when they put something on, they really went all out to do it. You know, homecomings were very special, and they had beauty pageants there. They were very special. My niece was Miss Teen Arkansas while we were there, you know, both my nephews were really good athletes that were up and coming during that time. And so, you know, wonderful time there. You know, we turned it around through sheer determination, I believe. And so they, you know, like I've always said, you got to be proud of the kids you coach. And I was so proud of these young men. And, you know, I enjoyed talking with Coach Weeks last week because he was able to kind of fill me in on what some of them have been doing, remind me of some of their names. But as I have had an opportunity to think back about it, I could remember most of them. And today I brought this coffee cup to the program, and it's one that we got when we visited Gettysburg, and very impressive place. I'd always wanted to go there because I've always been intrigued by military strategy and by the bravery of the men that fought in that battle, and so both sides, it was an amazing place to visit, the monuments, and just if you studied the battle, to be able to actually look at Little Round Top and you know, all the historic places that were there, and there's a visitor center that they have a virtual battle for you to just stand in the middle of it and watch all of it happen. So it was a great experience. My wife and I have been able to make several good trips like that. I encourage you to do that. Well, I pray for all of the young men that played for me at Greene County Tech. I pray that you're happy and successful, and I am extremely appreciative of what you did for me while I was there, and my family also. God bless you, and I'll see you next week.